Hello, we are live. This is Dante. This is beautiful Frances, who surprisingly just
Hello.
came to visit me. We got connected on social media like, how long ago? A year?
Year and a half
Year
ago?
and a half ago?
Yeah.
How?
The ways.
The ways.
The ways,
The ways.
yeah.
As many connections come into my
Yeah.
life. It just happens
I have
because
no
it's
idea.
meant to. I have
Yeah.
no idea either. So this is the first episode of Shaman's Cup. We're drinking cacao. I talk a lot on my channel, and I don't really feel like I have one fixed personality. I have many different ways of expressing myself that just come out with different people, and I feel like by communicating and letting other people bring their magic in, there's going to be a lot more that comes through on this channel. So I feel so honored that you're
So
here.
beautiful. I feel so honored
so
too.
glad that you're willing to talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
And Frances
It's an honor.
has been working in Mongolia and traveling in India and any other parts of Asia.
Nepal. Spent some good time in Nepal. Briefly in Bhutan.
Yeah.
Taiwan.
So she is initiated as a Mongolian shaman, and we're going to talk about those practices and a bit of that journey. And as the cacao spirits with us, just opening the heart energy to transmit that as well. And who knows what else is going to come up. So
We'll just see.
yeah.
I am an open book, but I'm going to
Yeah.
let you choose what page
Okay.
to read. So you
Yeah.
ask the questions and we'll see what
Yeah.
comes out.
So yeah, let's just start from the beginning. You told me already, but just for everyone's sake, how did all of this begin for you?
Well, I was a practicing psychologist doing very Western style
Yeah.
psychology. And then the voices started talking to me.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that was, we know what Western psychology would say about that. But I immediately, although I had been a staunch atheist, immediately knew, like, this is legitimate.
Yeah.
I would have clients and it would be someone talking to me about their depression, and then I would hear their grandmother saying, "Oh, she's lying to you. Ask her what she did last night." So it was evidential. And you might think you know the world. You might think you're an atheist, but when grandma's talking to you, my worldview just crumbled in a week.
Wow.
So skipping forward quite a bit, I left behind a very Western life.
Yeah.
Lived in Nepal and India for a good long time, and that was about a year and a half, 2 years of Kali energy.
Yeah.
It was difficult, and there's a lot of destruction.
I got a message to clean the camera lens. Okay.
Okay. And then I found myself back in America and really not sure what to do next.
Yeah.
And I was doing yoga one day, and some spirits came to me and they said, "You need to go to Mongolia."
Yeah.
And I said no.
Not ready for that.
Yeah, I already said yes, and that's where that got me. So it took them
Yeah.
about a year of
Yeah.
telling me it. But they said, "You've been a Mongolian shaman many lifetimes,
Wow.
and you have to go, and that's where you're going to find your teacher, and they'll remember you."
Wow.
Yeah, and it literally took them a year.
Mhm.
And I actually said, "Okay, this time I'm not going anywhere unless we can make a contract.
Yeah.
And you have to promise me these." I got smarter. Like, you have to promise me these things if I'm gonna be safe. Can't be sick as much as I was. Just it wasn't a strong list, but it was more just to know that if I'm traveling to a place like Mongolia alone, I really need to feel spirit with me.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes just having those physical confirmations in the physical world, an empty seat when I need a place to sit, lets me know I'm actually
Yeah.
going the right way. So I went to Siberia first, and then made my way down to Mongolia. Kind of a funny way the doors opened to get me there.
Yeah.
And everything they said was true. I would go meet these shamans, and they would remember me.
Yeah.
And they would, and these are shamans that don't talk to Westerners.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was, so that's how I ended up there. The spirits told me to go, and I went.
Yeah.
And I met my teacher, and I have a shaman auntie now, and a few shamans that I know, but the one lineage that I've been taken into. And yeah,
It's incredible.
it's been trippy.
Yeah.
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 And so I work with locals while I'm there too.
Yeah. And they recognize you as a shaman, the local
They do.
people.
And that's a whole different thing, but that's the only reason why I'm comfortable using that word is because that's the word they use. That's how it gets translated. And in fact, in America, I don't call myself a shaman. But when I'm talking about it in the context of Mongolia, that's how they.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
You know, we have the dentist and we have the shaman there.
Yeah. And that word shaman actually comes from Mongolia, right?
I believe it's not from. It's from a little bit. It is like general Mongolia. I think it's more Tuvan culture, perhaps. It's a very specific region and not the region that I'm from.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's very interesting because in a way, like all of the shamanism around the world takes its name from there, and some people are very critical of those sorts of things.
You know, my opinion of that word has changed and continues to evolve, and I have really strong opinions about it because it's so misused in America.
Yeah.
And at first, I was really reluctant to use the word at all because the word came from a Western ethnologist going into this region and stealing the word from them. There's no doubt there's not a good history of the word. But I think what I recognize traveling so much is that there's a reason why Western, particularly like the culture I know, American culture, there's a reason why we don't have a word for something like a shaman.
Yeah.
It's because of the erasure of this ways that we have to connect with the other realms.
Yeah.
It's systematically erasing our connection to our roots. And it's really important for us to be able to have a word that I can connect with and say, in Mongolia, this is what we do. In Peru, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Like it or not, this is a word that has it has a meaning. It means the people that can connect with the other realms and help us know. I just feel really strongly that like it is a word with a complicated history, but there is an appropriate time, I think, to use it.
Totally. Yeah.
And most people don't use it at the appropriate time.
Anyway, this is a subject up for debate, but
so that's my strong side. You stumbled on my biggest soapbox.
Okay. Maybe we'll tap back into that, but I really want to. So we were talking earlier that shamanism in Mongolia has been through a kind of rocky history because the country has been through so much. So it's kind of being like rediscovered in a way. And they're getting possessed by their ancestors who's already doing that work. I don't know if you want to talk to like what's going on culturally in Mongolia and how they're kind of remembering and reawakening that.
I think that's the exact way to explain it. So hundreds of years ago it was shamanism. Yeah. Then the Buddhists from the Gelug sect of Tibetan Buddhism came in, and these Tibetan monks killed the shamans. Yeah. Then the Soviets came and they killed the monks and the shamans. Yeah. So around the turn of the century, not the 20th century, the one before, shamanism had to go completely underground. Yeah. You'd be, it was like just long enough to wipe out the memories of the memory holders. Yeah. It was about 80, 90 years, I think, that it had to be totally underground. So by the time socialism collapsed in 1990 and when shamanism began its reemergence, we didn't have the people there to remember precisely how the rituals were really done. Yeah. So it's a reconnecting with the spirits too. But there is a reawakening and I think a reemergence that's happening for sure. Yeah.
And what does that feel like for you? Like, what is the experience for you of like being in Mongolia, and what was it like when you first entered the country and like had to like allow the connections to emerge?
Potent. Yeah. I mean, I remember I took the Trans-Siberian Railway down to get in the country, and I remember crossing that border and seeing they call them gurs, but the yurts for the first time, and being like, wow, I am here. And I really didn't know anything about Mongolia at that time. But I think there's something about going to a place where your soul remembers it that's just indescribable. Totally. And I think you've had these experiences as well. It's
in Mexico, Guatemala, and Peru, in India. All of those places like triggered a deep soul remembrance for me.
Yeah, so Mongolia really feels like a home. Yeah. Like in the last 12 months, I think I've spent 4 of the months there. And it's just, I know where to go, I know what to do, I'm heavily guided, and I've been told I have good karma in this region. My spirits have also told me a couple places where I don't have such good karma. Okay. They're like, don't, if you want to work on that, okay, but but Mongolian culture itself is quite raw and maybe a little imbalanced in gender.
Well, around the world.
Yeah, shocker.
Who would have thought? Imbalanced in gender. I've not heard that before.
and then putting my soul back into that place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's strong. It's a powerful experience for sure. The dreams there are vivid.
Wow. So the shaman you met, kind of, did they recognize you quite instantly, or did you have to seek them out, or did you find them, or did they find you?
I think the beautiful thing about this path that you and I both walk is when the door is supposed to open, it just opens.
Exactly.
And I didn't have to look that much. I just needed to put my body in the right place.
And what was that place?
It was a Korean coffee shop.
Okay.
and they have like their favorite, it's called Tom and Tom's. It's like the cool coffee shop.
Yeah.
And it's a chain that's all over the capital, Ulaanbaatar.
Yeah.
And there was a guy there in his like young 20s dressed in this traditional Mongolian warrior clothing.
Wow.
And I'm really fascinated in clothing and the history of clothing and the stories that they tell and the importance of being connected to that. And so I approached him and I said, "Oh, do you speak English? Can I just ask you about this?" And it turned out he was very anti-Western.
Oh, wow.
And he really was taking a stand against the Westernization of Mongolian culture, and he was very thoughtful about why he was wearing this. And then he was meeting a friend from high school, and that friend is now my niece, and he's become my nephew. And her name is Heidi, and she had lived in California as a child.
Oh, wow.
So she has perfect California English.
Yeah.
And she became my translator, and it's his brother who was my teacher. So when I told him what I was doing, he said, "I want you to meet my brother." And then the three of us went within the next week, and he and I met, and I had a really strong soul-level reaction to meeting him, and I think he did as well.
Yeah.
And we talked, we call it shaman time when we get together.
Yeah.
We were there for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Reconnecting, and it really was like a reconnection, like we remembered each other, and I remembered him from past lives, but I didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
And then he did a ritual to connect with his ancestors to ask, like, who is this Frances? And they confirmed, or they said, "You guys have known each other many lives, and she's here."
So
for a
past
reason."
lives is a part of their...
Yeah, it is.
Wow, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so he took me as a student. I did the initiation, and it's when you do the initiation, everything changes in you energetically. The ways that I remember things, the way that I talk changed, my healings changed. Of course, the spirits that are talking to me changed.
Yeah.
So that was huge.
Wow.
And I think maybe something that is not known much about Mongolian shamanism is they have white shamans and black shamans.
Okay. But is that good and bad? Or?
No.
Okay.
So white is what we would think of as like a light worker or like doing Reiki.
Yeah.
White shamans.
A healer.
A healer. Black shamans also do healing, but they really are focused on protecting energy.
Ah, okay.
So, and then...
Grab that obsidian right there.
This would be a very black shaman energy. Yeah.
So it's like the black absorbs the energy, protects.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's a perfect.
That's what the stones do, too.
Yeah. And that is what you're doing, is you're taking it on to get off of others.
And see, that's so different from, like, what the Western white and black magic is.
Totally.
And, like, even, like, in the Eastern yoga, like, white and black tantra, it's like this dark and light, negative, positive,
this
like,
is
heavy
brilliant.
shit.
I'm going to use
and
this example now.
A lot of people that are light workers in the spiritual movement, New Age movement, whatever you call that stuff, at this point are like, oh, they avoid everything that's, like, dark.
Yeah.
They associate all form of darkness with negative energy, yet the earth is dark. The deep darkness comes from the earth that protects us, and all is one, and like our inner darkness has to be embraced. We bring that deep depth up into us to like keep us here.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's just very like funny to me when people are avoiding the darkness. So it's really cool to hear that there is black shamanism that's a good thing. And tell me about that more. I want to hear.
So I'm both. So I was recognized as both a black and white shaman. Some shamans are both, some are just one, some are just the other. But my teacher and I both do both.
Wow.
And I think that's a huge difference that I notice between my approach to the work that I do and some people that I encounter in more Western environments. I meet some people that are quite clear about being able to clean energy and clean the collective energy, but their energy themselves is not protected, too open, too easy for negativity to get on them. And so I find a lot of the work that I do is actually with other light workers.
Yeah.
Cleaning and teaching protection. Like, you cannot keep your doors open.
No.
Right? And you're dragging stuff home with you. If you're doing light work and you don't know how to clean yourself of these negativities and protect yourself, 100% you're taking it home with you, and you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of what I do, is using that knowledge I have from Black shamanism to help people know, like, there's another dimension here that is important to address too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool.
So I somehow specialize in demon removal.
Great.
Yeah. We don't get to choose our path.
No.
And for whatever reason, I can, like, I'm not doing it, of course, but like, if you have a problem with something on you that you can't get off, it's not what I would have chosen to specialize in, but this is one of my specialties, is really getting the I think a lot of Westerners talk less too about the fact that there are negative entities out there, and they can get into us, and I'm your girl. That's part of what my lineage does. Some people don't even believe in it, though. And that for me is, it's like I see the trees. Yeah, it's see like the entities.
You know, we're going beyond belief entirely, and I want to make an entire video about that one day. But it's like belief systems. It's just an illusion that creates an experience for us. But it's like the entities and these spirits. It's like, for me, it's not a belief anymore. It's like a direct experience. It's like you feel it, you know it. It just comes. You can't, once you have that knowing and you have that experience, no matter how hard you try, you can't.
You can't undo it.
Yeah.
And I have people say to me things like, "Oh, you have such faith," and I say to them, "I have no faith.
No.
I just this is for
faith
whatever
is
reason."
some weird religious thing.
Yeah, this is
a new concept.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I see the entities and I get them off, and that's part of the big part of Mongolian shamanism.
So I want to hear both, like, what the Mongolian perspective on the entities are and what your perspective is.
That's a good question. I think I'm still learning.
Okay.
Because there's a lot to learn with Mongolian shamanism, and part of the way that I'm trying to learn is I'm reading as much as I can, but just immersing myself in that culture. Trying to think what they would say. There's a lot of cursing in Mongolian shamanism, and I have removed curses too, and they're absolutely, within that context, I feel them.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, one time I was working with someone and they had a lot of negative energy under their house.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out what it was, and then we finally stumbled upon one member of the family who's very energetically strong, believes in hell.
Okay.
And this person was sending their consciousness to, there's a hell below me. And they actually created a vibration below their house, right?
Of hell.
Yeah, so that's where, like, consciousness is so important.
Yeah.
I can say I absolutely have felt curses in Mongolia, and I absolutely have removed them. What does that mean? I think you have to put it within the context of, this is a culture where the shared consciousness accepts that cursing is real and it can happen. And so energetically it does. But does that mean it would translate to a culture that I could... can I just curse my neighbor? I don't know. It gets, the shared collective is a really interesting consideration in these matters. So I experience entities as very separate. You can have your own negativity or difficult karma. You can have ancestors that are working through trauma that is within you, of course. But also sometimes just a little booger gets on you. It needs to be removed, and it is not part of you. You know, it's like, and I don't care where it came from. It needs to go. Yeah. So for me, it can be a very separate, sentient thing that needs to be removed.
Does it ever feel like it comes from another lifetime? That maybe it's like, you know, it is actually somebody's past lifetime that just hasn't been processed?
Yes.
Because I've done depossessions like that.
Yeah.
And I find that most times when people are really being afflicted by something, it's something similar to that. But then there's also other spirits that are just wandering about the
Yeah.
earth that like latch onto people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because it's what I do, but a lot of people that find their way to me have what I would call, I like the word disincarnate for the moment.
Yeah.
And I have felt that as something that has come in to
Yeah.
a lifetime with someone, particularly the really
Yeah.
insidious ones.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that feels very distinctly different to me than difficult energies that we have accrued over lifetimes that come in with
Yeah.
us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for example, there's one person I was working with, and they had a disincarnate on them from when they were little, and it preyed basically on this person's self-esteem.
Mhm.
So from the time they were young, there was this little thing on them telling them, "You're bad, you're no good."
Yeah. Mhm.
But of course, that echoes potentially, and in this case, the family culture.
Right.
It echoes the greater culture.
Mhm.
It became part of this person's self-talk.
Yeah.
So I can remove that entity,
Mhm.
but then the work is still there for them to do.
Yeah, they have to change the way they're thinking about
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
They have to
Exactly. So
set up a new system of belief.
exactly. And they have to be ready. So he felt the energetic shift immediately. I think he felt like the way he explained it, more spaciousness. Like it had been very theoretical before,
Right.
that he could love himself, and now he was able to kind of, there was more flexibility.
Okay.
But now it was just like the field has been
Yeah.
prepared. But
Mhm.
removing a disincarnate is not just like, and now you're fine,
Yeah.
because they're there to do some icky stuff.
Yeah. Ooh, yucky.
Yeah.
Is there something
Yeah.
that's bubbling for you?
In my mind right now.
Yeah. Something that you, is there a bubbling message that you really feel is like the crux of it that you really want to share?
I really wanted to get out this concept of black and white shamanism.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think what's coming to my mind right now is, particularly the Western mind right now loves, and we both have seen this, loves concepts, ideas, categories, boxes.
Yeah.
But I've traveled to enough countries that I think it's really important for me when I work to slip down under the category.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Mongolian shamanism, but that's just kind of the way that it's coming in.
Yeah.
Universally, it's all the same.
Yeah.
And we're all doing the same thing, just
Yeah.
with different means.
Totally.
And to not get caught up in this ritual or that ritual or this or that, it's
Yeah.
like the deeper work is happening all over the world, and it's
Yeah.
all the same.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful path.
Yeah. And there's like an uprising right now.
There is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All over the world.
Yeah.
So,
Though there are uniquenesses. Uniquenesses. Is that even a word? Anyway, there are
take
uniquenesses about every kind of shamanism, or
Yeah.
even within Mongolia, or even within any
Absolutely.
country. So we were talking a little bit that for your teachers, like the dress is really important, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of energy that just what they wear.
very
Holds.
ritualized. Very
Yeah.
ritualized.
Yeah.
I'm asking my spirits what I can and cannot tell.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's the
Yeah, feel
the
free to
pause.
take a moment.
So Mongolians, what I love about shamanism in Mongolia is it's so rough and tumble.
Yeah.
You can't get a Reiki certificate there.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about certification, but there's also something to be said for every time you work, it's a proving ground, and you have to prove that you're legitimate.
Yeah.
So people in Mongolia are in some ways pretty savvy at evaluating their shaman.
Right.
They're not going to just drink the Kool-Aid right away. They need to see, like, you're actually getting better after you see the shaman.
It's a whisper. You didn't hear that.
So, but the downside of what's come out of
Yeah.
that is Mongolian shamanism is so ritualized.
Okay.
And I think the Mongolian mindset is really ready to believe I need precisely one bone from this animal. I need to put it at this orientation. Like they get overly caught up in the ritual
Okay.
rather than understanding it's the energetics behind it. Yes,
Yeah.
that ritual is important,
Yeah.
but there's something deeper going on. So they can, it's one of the things that I struggle with Mongolian shamanism is they get overly focused on the like fetish aspect of it,
Yeah.
and not doing the internal soul work, recognizing like,
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's also a very like Western thing as well. It's like, you know, people going to the New Age Expo and looking at all the crystals and,
Yes.
oh, this one, what
It's
does that
true.
do? What does that do? I gotta feel its energy, and it's just like, girl, like just pick up the one you want.
Yeah,
like,
and then
you
walk
see
away.
it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same when they see a shaman in Mongolia, like, oh, can you do this? And you don't need that. Like, you're here for this
Yeah.
one thing. Here's your water.
Yeah.
Sprinkled around your house. You're good. You're good, you know?
Yeah, and
That's true.
there's this like burgeoning understanding for me and for many right now that it's like, you know, it's only about what you believe about it that's going to make you have that experience.
Yeah.
So we're kind of creating our own magic now by being like, oh, okay, like there's the elements of the earth, and there's the spirits, and there's my own mental body that I can have this intention, and I can have all of this coming together to
Yeah.
create the spell that I want. It's like
Exactly.
spelling is like we're spelling words, we're casting spells with what we speak and how we define things. So do you find that there is that opening there for people to go beyond and be able to like have more freedom in what they're creating?
No.
Okay.
So the wonderful thing about having this translator
Yeah.
that I'm really close to as well is she kind of gives me the inside scoop.
Okay.
And she said one of the things she notices about me that's really different is I will teach people, you also have some of this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I am not the shaman,
Yes.
and you're the not shaman.
Oh yeah, that's the old paradigm.
And it's strong. It is strong in Mongolia. And so, like, for me to be saying, I'm going to teach you how to talk to your own spirits is almost heretical there.
Oh shit.
But because it's Mongolia,
Oh, shit.
heretical is the norm.
That's the
like
norm,
it
okay.
kind of like, for whatever reason, the way everything's aligning and the doors are opening, I find myself again and again saying things that are not typical Mongolian shamanism, but people are there for it and they hear it and it's going well. Like, I was teaching people how to use pendulums to clean their chakras.
Oh wow.
And they love it.
Yeah?
They absolutely love it. You know, so, but they don't have this new age stuff quite yet. And so I'm making this funny little like crack in the space time of I'm recognized there as a local.
Yeah.
And yet I can come in and do these things that the shamans there aren't always doing, as far as I know right now.
Yeah.
And they love it, of course, because I'm saying you have the power too, you know?
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things. And I call myself a feminist shaman.
Yeah.
That speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk more about that though.
Oh.
Because you were saying that there's in Mongolia or in Asia there's a different experience of gender that you have that you're attracted to.
Yeah.
But there's also a gender conflict.
Yes. Mongolia is very I want to pick my words carefully.
Okay.
But there's an imbalance. So there's a preference of masculine over feminine.
Like the whole world?
Yeah.
When we're healing?
Yeah.
Collectively?
Exactly. And then it kind of folds into nomadic culture and how genders were there. I mean, I do want to say men and women can be shamans there.
Yeah.
In some ways, there's more equality than in other countries.
Yeah.
But women have a role and men have a role.
Yeah.
And women still have babies, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
And I don't have children, and that is a open topic of discussion.
Okay. Do they want you to have kids? Or
Oh
they're
yeah.
Okay. Are they trying to pair you up with someone or?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of matchmaking that happens in Mongolia.
Gosh.
The
Okay.
pictures come out on the cell phones whenever I land, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I encourage that.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember. You know, for me to be telling a woman, there have been several women that have come to me that have asked me about their marriages. And I remember the first time I was talking to a woman and I said, I don't quite know what to say.
Yeah.
I said to her, I think within your culture, I shouldn't be telling you to leave your husband.
Yeah.
But within my culture, I said, I don't know how to turn off what I'm seeing, and that energetically this is not a match.
Aligned.
Yeah. You know, and I really just stepped that was, I think, the first time that I just really recognized I'm going to do my best that I can of labeling,
Yeah.
this is coming from me, this is not being channeled. Most of what I do is channeled. But I want you to know that through my American eyes, women deserve something better.
Yeah.
You know, we don't stay with this.
Yeah.
And I've done that a couple times now, and it feels a little tenuous to be saying that in a culture that's not my own, but you know,
Yeah, I mean,
can't stay with that.
no, you can't stay with that, and that's something that is like happening in some of the projects. Like when I'm going to Mexico coming up, it's like part of the dreaming of this is that it's a unification with this new approach, this very open approach of like finding the power within and combining so many schools of thought and magic and everything together, and bridging that with the the keepers of the land there, the indigenous people who have their traditions. It's like that cultural bridge, when that is opened, there's so much so much healing and so much potency. And the people of the earth that have this wisdom still, like that's how we're really going to move through this time, when there's this infiltration of the tech and the materialism and the American dream and all of these things that keep us stifled.
Yeah. And for me, that goes back to reconnecting with the divine feminine too, which we all have within us. The moving people, I find, even in Mongolia, they're hungry for it. Like, we can all feel that something's off.
Yeah.
And I use, like, speaking about like new paradigms and things, I actually use Himalayan singing bowls in my healing work there. And these singing bowls I got in Nepal. They were blessed by the head of the Nyingma monastery while they were there. They're really potent.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they're basically portals.
Yeah.
And they're
They
really...
are.
Yeah, and they're alive, and frankly, someone with a singing bowl is not the same as someone else with a singing bowl.
No.
You gotta... We'll leave that there. Maybe that's for the next coffee talk. But these bowls are potent, and I use them in Mongolia, and they love them.
Yeah.
So these people, I come in with my translator, and I say, "Hi, I'm a recognized shaman. Great. My spirits are Mongolian. I can talk to your spirits. Great. I'm from America, and I'm using this Nepali method. Great." They're fine with it.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, I'm shifting their energy. It's evidential.
Yeah.
And it's to me kind of what you're talking about too, like moving beyond what we see. I think there's this collective shift into hearing deeper and using this deeper way of being able to connect with whatever is calling us forward, which is for me still quite mysterious.
And that surrender to the unknown is where the greatest magic happens.
That might be in the conclusion. I have no idea what's happening.
You have no idea what's happening? Yeah, exactly. And like, we don't need to know all the time. We just need to like be in the right frequency. It's like, it's really about the feeling that you have, the emotion of like shifting into that state of wonder and appreciation and completion and trust. And like, it doesn't matter that story, that belief system you tell yourself. It matters how it makes you feel.
Absolutely.
And like the details that people get caught up in so oftentimes just keep them stuck and limited.
It does. Even in knowing, even when now you know your story perfectly, you can get stuck.
Yeah.
One of my favorite teachers, I feel like this is like the last thing I have to say at this time. She's passed.
I have one more question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to make sure I say this. So one of my favorite teachers, she's passed, so she's in spirit form, but she's with me and a very primary mentor. I was getting caught up a while ago about how to do something, and she came to me and she said, Frances, only the young shamans know what they're doing.
Whoa. That's in alignment with some things that I get, some downloads I get.
And I really sit with that a lot. That
it's like we have to be the bridge for the new times.
And just be present.
And that's also what comes up in a lot of the New Age community is like people talk about the different generations of souls coming forward. There's indigos, crystals. Like, I don't like the labels, but I just feel like the frequency that people bring, and it's not necessarily a matter of when they're born, but what energy they're carrying and what their soul mission is. And like, your soul knows that more than you know. Whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. Your soul already has that info.
That's what I fall back on all the time.
And there is an importance of like preserving the knowledge, and there's some people that their mission is just to keep alive that knowledge. But that leads into one thing I really want to hear a little bit about, if you don't mind sharing, is the personality of the spirits that your teachers bring in. Can you talk just a little bit about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the way Mongolian shamanism works, when you get initiated, you take a spirit.
Yeah.
And this is your it's your own gut. It's who you work with. So Mongolian shamanism is really based around channeling.
Yeah.
What you do is you're not a shaman, I think. This is pretty bold to say. But the shamans I know that are there, that are legitimate, are exceptional channelers. And you turn yourself over and your own gut comes into the body, and they're the ones that do everything.
Wow.
I work that I can channel lots of different spirits.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But in Mongolia, you've got your dude.
You've got just one.
Yeah, or dudette.
Yeah.
And that's everyone knows each time they come in, and it goes back historically to how shamanism worked back in the nomadic cultures, that it would be like you might be a shaman, and then when you die, you actually become the ongat for the granddaughter.
Yeah.
So then the spirit that's coming in through the granddaughter,
so
people
cool.
actually know, like, oh,
it's still alive, still with us.
Yeah, and so
Nothing's
the granddaughter would be exactly. The granddaughter will be talking about the birthday party that she was at, but she wasn't born because it's the grandmother. That's the evidential piece for them. That the spirit is like, I remember you. We were at that really bad harvest in this year. Yeah, where the person channeling it wouldn't know. Yeah. But so I think that's really lovely, and it's a really lovely way to weave the community together. Yeah. But the flip side is these ongats can be, what I would say is they're not quite human, but I would say that some spirits I work with would be way up there. Yeah. In the like Ganesh realm. Then you have like the ascended masters. Yeah. Then some of the ongats are a little below the ascended masters, or they might still have their opinions. They might be very sexist. A lot of them are very sexist.
So they still carry like the frequency of their time.
That might be a good way to put it.
The belief system of their time.
I'm still trying to figure it out, because the ascended masters that I work with are very flexible. Yeah. And they may have been from China 300 years ago. Yeah. But they're modern in a way that even when they spend time with me after a couple years, we can have conversations, but they feel ascended. Is the right word. Yeah. Sometimes these Mongolian spirits, they might be exceptional healers and very perceptive about like having great acumen in what's going to happen in Mongolian history coming up. A lot of shamans that I've talked to, we all see the same thing coming up for Mongolian history, but we'll have to wait to see. But then they might say, I don't want you dating a foreigner.
Okay.
And
maybe that's just preserving their genetic line, keeping their genes intact.
Yeah. Whereas for me, I'm not okay with that. Yeah. And I think it's important but the Mongolians themselves take the words of the ongats that are being channeled as something more up in the realm of ascended master. Yeah. Like all-seeing, maybe even higher. Yeah. And and this is, as someone who's not an academic at this time in this way, I'm talking about being from the ground and what I've seen with my eyes, so I only have met with maybe 5, 6, 7 shamans there that I've become to know. But I really wish for the Mongolians to get a little more savvy about it's okay to say no to them. Yeah. That said, I'm asking if it's okay. Mongolian shamanism loves secrets, which I'm not into, but here I am. When I took my initiation, just after I agreed to this, a huge pain went shooting through my whole body. Wow. It was like a stabbing knife of fire.
I got that many times too with initiations. Yeah. It's not easy.
No. And then my teacher's spirit came to me and he said, And if you ever leave, we'll kill you. Which I feel like in Western terms, we're really into like consensual things. You should say that before I take the initiation, you know? But they're...
So you're sworn in.
This is it.
You're in.
You know? Yeah, this is
no
it.
going
Lifetimes.
back. You're a Mongolian shaman.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
And this is enough.
Okay.
But, you know, they're very used, these spirits, to saying, this is my word. And you do what I say. And they can have the Hatfields and McCoys kind of vibe.
Oh my God.
It's a little different than the white lightworker community of the West.
Yeah.
So it's a fun place to be because I think, like I said, Mongolia is evolving and growing along with the collective.
Yeah.
And the people there are hungry for something different. And I don't know what my soul purpose is. I know I've signed contracts and I frankly...
What do you mean you don't know your soul purpose is?
Well, I don't need to know what I agreed to.
Okay.
The path is unfolding in a way that I can look back and say, oh, that's awfully curious that I was a Western psychologist.
Yeah.
Perfectly trained to criticize this, and now I'm doing something that Western psychology would have words for. Like, to me, that's, wow, that was really masterful.
Yeah.
But I didn't need to know it for it to happen, and I prefer to not know.
Yeah.
Because I'll probably be pissed at myself.
We're never going to know where we end up, but we always know that along the way we're activating things.
Right. And I
we're
think
activating people. We're helping people get healing and codes and
I don't
new
need
energies.
to know.
You don't need to know.
I just like to flow, you know. Yeah. But I think that when I think about my background, going to Mongolia at this time, Mongolians being receptive, me absolutely feeling more at home in Mongolia than anywhere else. From a collective conscious perspective, there's a reason why this emerged, you know, and I don't need to know precisely what it is, but it is really fascinating to watch it unfold. You know? Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Yeah. And then to meet you along the way.
I know.
You know, I'm not, and like maybe, who knows what's going to come up.
I have no idea. But it's like, it's a weaving, that's for sure, of so many different energies. So many, like, all of these cultures around the world, people are getting the codes from them and unifying them. Yeah. And it's like, we are really becoming a unified planet. Not just a unified planet, but I mean, I'm pretty sure most people from my channel are here for the ET stuff. So we're becoming a unified galaxy.
Absolutely.
And all of the different extraterrestrial groups are coming here energetically as well. Though it's also about unifying the planet. So
absolutely, and the dimensions, and
the dimensions and everything.
You know, as bossy as my Mongolian spirits are, nothing happens without their permission. Yeah. And yet, like I told you, I work with Palladians, and I have Palladians in me, and this is something that the Mongolian spirits are allowing. Yeah. I can't get away with just accidentally having Palladians with me, and so
I think were they always in contact with the Palladians?
I don't know how this all works, but I know that on some level, like when you said weaving, I really got a very strong, like, that hit, you know? Yeah. There's something happening that on some level, in some dimension, something of this Mongolian energy is agreeing to me, you know, the way that I just was like, oh, come by, and you're leaving, and it's like, here we are together. There's something that's allowing this weaving to happen.
Totally. It's like very serendipitous. We didn't know about it but a couple days before, and we've been contacting each other for a while, and just like, you know, I don't talk to that many people I don't know on social media.
Me too.
Because I get so many people that are just like, you inspire me so much. I want to know this and this and this. Can you give me advice for free? And I'm like, girl, take a step back. At this point, like, I'm at a point where I just, like, I can't handle it anymore, because, like, I see myself getting to a much, much bigger level and reaching many, many more people. And I just can't, like, even with friends and people I know in person, it's like, I can't put up with the scavengers anymore.
That's the word.
Yeah, I can't put up with that. I almost cursed.
Sorry, that might have been my spirit coming through.
I've cursed on my channel maybe once before. It's okay.
I think I might be in you. I have a dirty mouth sometimes. I'm working on it. Sorry.
Boundaries, girl.
Boundary.
Really random thing. Is the bubonic plague still existing in Mongolia? Did you have to get, like, medicine to carry with you?
No, but funny story. I was out in Western Mongolia, just like maybe 20 miles or something from Kazakhstan, meeting with a shaman there, and we just connected immediately, and we had this lovely day, and we were in shaman time and spending who knows many hours together. And it's in Bayon Ugi. And at the very end, he gave me the pelt of like a weasel or a ferret or something that's white. And it's like an Arctic something rather.
Yeah.
And he said, you hang it up high in your house and it's for protection.
Yeah.
So I took it back to America. I mean, legally, of course, but I took it back to America with me. So a couple months ago, there was an outbreak of the bubonic plague in Mongolia.
Wow.
And I was reading about it, and they had to quarantine the city, and it was a terrible story. A couple of foreigners who were visiting died.
Oh my gosh.
And the city that it was from was precisely this city. Mm-hmm. And they had got it from eating some kind of like rodent type animal.
Oh my god.
So I literally had a pelt on my wall from a region that has ongoing bubonic plague.
That's crazy, because like I didn't know that this still existed on our planet. And like a couple, like I kind of got the download that we were going to connect more like back like late October, because I was speaking with this guy who maybe like 20 years ago did a trip through Mongolia as an anthropologist or something, studying like the Trail of Genghis Khan. He said he had to carry the medicine for bubonic plague on him all the time.
Wow. Well, interestingly, part of my
like, how does that still exist? I'm a little bit shocked.
but it's a tough place to be a vegetarian, and a lot of people that get the bubonic plague, not that it happens often, but my understanding is it often happens from eating wild caught, like small animal kind of vermin meat. Yeah. And interestingly, in the initiation I took, I had to take some agreements. Mm-hmm. And one of them is to never eat fish and to never eat hunted animals.
Never eat hunted animals?
Hunted animals.
So only eat herded animals?
Yeah, which for me is very counterintuitive.
Totally.
Like, I feel actually quite fine eating, I mean, plants are sentient, it's all sentient, and the food system is built on suffering. So it's if you want to minimize suffering, there are many ways to do it. Yeah. And in Mongolia, I prefer to eat locally, and I'm very comfortable eating meat there. Mm-hmm. But I would rather eat hunted meat. Yeah. And this was a very clear part of initiation. Wow. And the more time I spent with it, I think it potentially is because that's a way to protect me from bubonic plague. Could be. Yeah,
probably.
Because then I can it's a very... hospitality is very important in Mongolian culture, and if someone feeds you something, you never say no. Yeah. But if I'm out in the middle of nowhere in a yurt and someone offers me fried vermin, I have to say no.
Because it's your agreement.
Yeah, and they'll respect that. So
That's
I
great.
sort of wonder if that isn't in some ways protective. I don't know. I know there's a history along with it. Yeah. But in the ways that dimensions all exist and what gets called in, I think on some level that's a protective thing for me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And the last thing that's coming to mind is like, so shaman sickness is something that we don't need to go into. I just want to mention it. We don't have to go into our full story about it, because it's like, something about the spiritual community, and especially like when people start getting into the law of attraction, it's like, we're going to be in bliss states all the time.
Good luck with that.
And like, so when I awaken, and we were talking when you awaken, like, that first thing is just like everything dissolves, all the stuff comes up. Yeah. It's like you don't know left from right. It's like you're in other dimensions and you're at the same time in fucking survival mode. Yes. Day in, day out.
Yeah. And it's right. And I just
and the Mongolians have a term for that.
Love that they have a term for it, and I would love for it to catch on the West. They call it shaman sickness. Yeah. So when I was the only person I knew at that time that went from having no kind of, what do you call it, out there experiences to suddenly channeling in like 5 weeks. Yeah. I hadn't done any drugs. People ask me if I'd done yoga. Like, yoga is the gateway to whatever. But yeah, there you go. It's your own fault. Meditating. But it went from zero
Meditation's dangerous.
It's quite dangerous. So, you should get a license for it. So I felt like a piece of popcorn just popped, and I didn't know anyone that had this story. And when I went to Mongolia and I talked to these other shamans, that's what a shaman is. I met a shaman that he was a Russian man that had been studying to do business in Moscow. Popped.
Yeah.
Shaman sickness, became a shaman. I met someone who was actually in a women's rights kind of union, and a mother and working, popped. Then she became a shaman. She has an interesting story too.
Yeah.
But she went through her shaman sickness. It's understood that at the beginning, you're going to go through a period of time where you're going to look bizarre. Sometimes you're going to get physically sick. You might go blind for a year. You might marry someone quite quickly and move to India. Hey, we've all...
Wonder what that's about.
For example.
You might, like, travel around the world and sick and be in a tumultuous relationship.
Right. For example.
You know, for example.
These are things that
might have
happen.
chronic parasites for a year or two.
Yes.
I don't know.
For example. And then it's understood that that's just the beginning and everything gets worked out. You know, in Western psychology, I think back to the way that we were diagnosed schizophrenia, and they talk about different things, and I honestly still don't know fully how I feel about that, but it's quite clear to me that many people that we get labeled as having psychotic experiences and blah, 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 not only are they opening energetically, but they're going through what I went through, which is this horrible experience of being absolutely confused of what's happening and not having the world reflect back to them.
Yeah.
This is what you're going through, shaman sickness.
Yeah.
We're collectively going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Instead, we're going to medicate you. We're going to pathologize you. We're going to suddenly take away your authority and your right to be the expert on yourself.
Yeah.
Because you said you hear a voice, you're immediately giving us the authority to be the expert on you.
Yeah.
That's Western psychology. And it's devastating. And I think if we could have this term in Western culture, it just gives that new
We
lens.
have the term healing crisis, but even that doesn't do justice to it.
It doesn't quite capture
because it's like, you know, you're learning to heal what?
I mean, I'm still going through a healing crisis. Some, you know, that term for me isn't quite the same thing. And shaman sickness, it allows, I know 2 shamans that became shamans after they gave birth to their first child.
Yeah.
I think the beautiful thing about shaman sickness is there's an understanding that it can be as unique as the human, because we're all going through our journey.
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to look different.
It's going to be so different for everyone. Yeah.
Except for the parasites.
Except for the parasites. Do you have parasites?
Oh, yeah. In India.
But that's beyond shaman sickness. Even like anyone who decides to be a backpacker for a while is going to have that initiation, right?
Absolutely.
Some people never get over that initiation. I know some of those too.
Yeah, and I do really wonder, but none of this is a coincidence. So when I look back at my couple of years of what we could call shaman sickness, I sort of think that I'm not familiar enough with it to be able to do it yet, but the story is being told to us in our shaman sickness. This is your path. This is what you're going to be asked to work on. Yeah. This is what you're being initiated into. Yeah. It's not just a time of sickness. No. There's a reason why we're going through this thing. There's a reason why our sicknesses look different. Yeah. And I really think it's like parable for what we are opening up to and what we're agreeing to. Yeah. Like divination almost in a way.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, the collective is about to go through a shaman sickness, you know.
Ooh. I feel that when you say it.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, I almost like, so, yeah, I want to speak a moment to like, so how we met physically today, and this was Francis's idea, but we just came into the room, we maybe said like 5 sentences, because we had agreed we're going to sit and we're going to meditate, and we're going to let our souls meet each other before we have this like 3D bullshit talk. And not that it's bullshit, there's a lot that needs to be communicated, but it's like there's so much more that's transmitted at these higher levels. Yeah. And
it was beautiful.
It was really very beautiful. We got a lot, like I saw your gray wolf spirit and your Tara guide and all of these. She saw my lineages, and you saw this image of me as like a bat upside down, and the bat was trying to be right. The bat was right side up, trying to.
Which is therefore upside down for the bat. Yeah. And disoriented. Yeah.
Disoriented. And that was like, that's my message of like, you know, I tried to move back to the United States of America after being a nomad and trying to bring this shamanism and channeling multidimensional work to like a community to regularly be here. and it threw me off because I was trying to serve people who weren't ready to break from the system. And it just like, this was like, you know, it taught me how to ground, but this was almost like one of the most psychologically devastating chapters of my life. No, it's good because it healed, and it was also like, you know, last year, like, I wouldn't call this a sickness, as more of just like, you know, a series of really awful things that was just me like not being clear with boundaries. And like, you know, like, and still it's occurring on bigger levels. Like, I'm about to do more with that because I've really extracted the venom that was put in my body from this experience of like having a terrible relationship, destroyed my belongings so many times, like throwing against thought, like cut me in the face. He got me kicked out of my own place. Friends weren't really there for me. Business partner was like in this very manipulative, well, you know, business spiritual partner. I mean, how I employ myself is through spiritual things. So it's like
it gets so this, murky and all that
murky,
too.
Manipulative, controlling. I'm above you. We're doing it this way. You're not worth as much as I am. That thing on top, right after that breakup, then going to Hawaii, moving right next to the lava field, 3 days before the volcano erupts.
I remember
this was like, this wasn't a sickness, this was like a system glitch. This was like, Dante is like, giving himself away to everyone on the planet, and can't hold anything to himself, and can't hold himself up, and needs to have the ground literally shake and erupt beneath him in order to learn how to ground, needs to cut his foot on lava rocks in the ocean to the point that he can't walk for 2 months in order to learn how to walk again. And then finally, like, the venom from that's finally been like pulled out of my system, and it's teaching me how to set boundaries. Why did I start talking about that?
Oh, I am not the right person to ask to get back on track. I'm just with you. I'm right here on the story.
So why was I talking about? Because we're talking about the collective healing crisis.
The collective going through the shaman sickness that's coming up.
Yeah.
And then your journey.
Our journey. Oh yeah, like we were talking about, I tried to like bring myself back here and set something up. And it wasn't working, and it's like, it needed to be like the bat who's upside down. It's about breaking the old paradigm structures.
And how we met, and this is what we saw, and the bat
breaking the old paradigm structures is like, we're in a culture of materialism now. We're in a culture that
even
is
spiritual materialism
in the New Age field and all of it. It's like we're obsessed with the fucking crystals and different things that we think does it for us, or we're obsessed with the status, or obsessed with having enough to make us feel secure, but all of that is about to be rattled, right?
I think it started already, don't you? Yeah.
And absolutely. You know, like,
shaking people up.
In this like really difficult chapter, I was really obsessed, like the social media, like it's always been a little bit like rocky politically, but this chapter with the Trump administration and the Amazon burning and Africa burning and Siberia burning, and people don't talk about that because whatever, but that's happening too. With all of this stuff happening, like people are in this collective psychosis, and that was really affecting me. And like, because like I was like oriented towards like helping people who are in this, like I was downloading so much of that like eco grief and that psychosis, that political terror, and it's just like, it's a nightmare. It's like, we can't, you know, the way that we've been doing things for so long, it's over. It's already done. And like, I've lived for a long time knowing that, basically, and now it's like, you know, it's a lot of to do with my queerness, feeling like that's not really honored in like these spiritual places, or I can't get what I need in a way that I was like, okay, come back to where I can have that, but it's like, it's not worth it. And it's just showed me how much like, it's made me really, I'm grateful for it, because trying to do this is making me so much more bold, and being that kind of heyoka that messes with things, turns it into a joke, challenges the paradigm so boldly, and confronts people so directly that they're either like shocked, and I'm like, I'm totally happy with repelling every single person in the world except the people that are meant to work with me at this point. I'm totally happy with it. You don't like it, go away. Well, you know, like, I need to work with the people that are actually ready to go in and do that transformation.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing that, it's boring. Like small talk for me is like getting a hammer nailed over my head.
I know. Well, that's why the way that we met was just so beautiful, because it's like,
Yeah.
can I just meet you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, you and I both, there's something about us that I think we share going into a space and making people feel reactive.
Yeah.
We pull something out of people, if I can say, of like, whatever you have left about thinking you can judge others to know your worth, I'm going to trigger something.
Yeah.
And if you have anything left in you about wanting to judge someone, you'll find something to judge about me.
Yeah.
This white girl walking around saying she's a Mongolian shaman, all sorts of
cultural appropriation.
Yeah, that's
bitch.
right. It's all. I'm not allowed. Yeah. Don't even get me started. You know, and it took me years to own this because I'm so concerned about cultural appropriation legitimately, you know.
Yeah.
I know that I sound like an idiot. I know, right? But like, that's part of why I'm certain that's part of why I'm on this path, and it's part of why you're on this path, and it's not a coincidence to me that we're both fundamentally heart-opening people. But there's something so potent about the medicine that we both bring that we, I don't know about for you, but for me, I can find it really lonely because it's very difficult for me to find community. It's very difficult for me to find people that I can be like, can we just like hang out, right? Like, I get it. You're spiritual. I'm spiritual. I also just want to, I don't know.
For me, it's
hard.
like
I struggle.
The first thought that comes is like, when I have my co-creators, I have my community, because there's something very powerful of like, okay, me and you, we're going to make this project together and we're going to bring people on board. And especially I needed that here in the Matrix more. Like when I was collaborating with my friend, Trinity, and we did it together, it was so much more powerful. We were able to draw more people, and we were also able, like, for me personally, I was able to relax into the space. And like when she, like, I do my thing, and like that's a big moment for me, and then I relax because Trinity is about to do her part of it, and I receive that, and we receive from each other as we create the field. And it's like when we find the people that like resonate with, like, we're sharing this creative energy together, then we can like put that out in a way that we attract the people we need. So yeah, I mean, I also have felt like, you know, really surrounded by people. Like I have a lot of community in the sense there's a lot of people coming to me. Though sometimes it does feel like people just coming to me in order to support them, and it's like really like knowing who you're like I almost said star family, but almost like your healing allies. Maybe that's the most accurate word. Your healing allies, the people that can equally heal and uplift you. And like I wanted it to be like, oh, everyone can hold that space for me, and it's not true. I can be vulnerable in front of everyone, because that's just what authenticity is in this time. Is like, in order for me to really like help you, I have to show you all of myself, because if I don't do that, you can't show me all of yourself, and if you don't do that, you can't heal.
That's what I love about your online presence. Is you're like, I'm going through this right now. I just love it about you.
Thank you. And a lot of people in the old paradigm don't get it. They're like, oh my God, he's going through so much, or he's crazy, or like, I can't work with him because like he has his own stuff going on, and it's like unsafe. But it's like, it's really like, you know, you want to like wake up and help people, you're gonna go through so much shit.
Oh my gosh.
And like, you know,
any healer that comes
people
across
like
as
these like neophytes on this healing path, they're like, oh, I just like had this sudden awakening and things are different now, and I'm gonna help people, and I'm a healer. And it's like, it's great that you have that calling, but like, do you know how much you're gonna go through, and how much you're gonna die and be born again before you're actually able to like hold a group in a balanced way?
Right. And these healers that come across as, I need to model perfection to help others become perfect. I tell people when they come to me sometimes, this is a lot in the collective in the Phoenix Valley.
Okay. I don't know that region.
Oh, goodness. There's a lot of seeking the perfect way to do things, and looking for the teacher that can demonstrate that they have mastered, therefore they're ready to teach. And for me, perfection doesn't exist, and I don't trust a healer that doesn't know how to say, I'm going through my stuff right now. I'm going through my process. I'm working on boundaries. I'm working on calling in the right relationship. Like, we all know perfection doesn't exist, and for me, that's like
I can't stand those people. But I do believe in perfection, actually.
Do you?
Like in the Gene Keys, here's the book. It's like...
I don't know anything about this stuff. You know so much about things I know nothing about. I know how to remove
We will have
entities.
to just keep collaborating.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't even know which Gene Key it is. But anyway, It's in the book. Like, perfection is one of... I should find it.
What's 492? I hear 492.
492?
And 20. I hear 492 and 87.
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, look at those pages. I'm just like trying to find... Where's... Perfection is a state of becoming. Oh, okay, here. Perfection is 38. Perfection is the city, the psychic power. The gift is integrity. The shadow is judgment. So it's like... And people have so many judgments about judgment, but I think it's a good thing.
Oh.
Like, judgment, from this perspective, judgment can be positive.
Like,
or negative.
In terms of, like, discrimination, like, judgment is in this is good for me, this is not good for me. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And judgment is like, that healer is good for me and that healer is not good for me. That healer is not working on their ego stuff or on their self-care, on their relationship issues, so I'm going to avoid them. And being able to, like, say that directly, like, that's a form of judgment, and that's actually a good thing. Like, we need to be able to do that, and that's why a lot of people are fucking freaked out by me.
And that's why I'm totally drawn to you.
So perfection is like, it's in a state of becoming. It's like, if you can, because everything is here and now, right? Can you envision a perfected state?
No.
No.
My first thing that I would say is I don't believe in perfection.
Can you?
But on the other hand, I believe this is all perfect, right? Like,
exactly.
This is how it should be.
It's exactly as it should be.
I haven't pooped for 2 days because I'm traveling, and I feel like I need to poop. But I'm not pooping, but that's perfect, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
it is as it is.
Yeah.
It's not as it's not, you know. Everything is perfect in its state.
In
So that's
way,
a form of perfection. And also there's the perfection of just like the striving. That's first, it has to come from that place of it is exactly as it is.
Yeah.
I see that negativity in me or in that other person, and I accept that. That's the integrity of just being like, here, this is how it is, and being able to be honest and open about it.
That's really difficult, though, because to be able to do that and sit with, I struggle with striving, and this other person does too. It's important to be able to say that without judgment of it, you know. Like, I almost feel like the word judgment needs to be two different things, because there's the judgment coming from ego, better or worse. Oh, they're struggling with striving, but they're doing it more than me, you know, versus coming from that place of the collective, striving, and that's something we're both working on, and that's not helpful. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's like, is the striving coming from the striving itself is okay, but when striving is negative when you're shaming or making wrong or like doing it out of fear, you know.
I think
striving out of fear, and that's the only striving we're used to.
I'm striving, but
yeah,
it's a complicated word.
You said
that's the next.
You said 497.
What did I say? 420. 87. We'll have to go back and look. I don't remember.
I turned to the page. For 497 for some reason.
We can look at it. I think it was 87 and 4. I don't remember.
This is the one that I looked at today in my little divination. It's about precision.
I love it. But I want to go back after this and look at the ones I said.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take a peek back at that.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we're not supposed to play with this anymore. But anyway, maybe we're coming to a conclusion. Do you have any question for me?
Like 500 of them.
Anything that you think should be included in the video?
Gosh, the you know, my experience with my gender is not something that can be described in the way that Westerners use approach the concepts these days. Even queerness, I struggle with that word.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm constantly intrigued by how I'm trying to formulate my question. As you understand here the Western concept of queerness, do you think that the way that people talk about queerness captures your experience of your soul? Does that word accurately define something that you experience on your soul level?
I think that, no, I don't think so. I think it's a word that I accept just to like be able to describe things to people. So when I think of queerness, I think like, everyone has the inner masculine and feminine. And I see that so many people are just performing what they learn about gender in order to stay safe, in order to feel accepted, in order to like be able to navigate the society.
Yeah.
So I see like everyone's queer, and most of the people are in denial of it. And it's like as people awaken, it's like they start to be more comfortable with that other side of them. And as I see myself and my gender, like there was a point when like, being in very heterosexual space and spiritual communities for almost all my life, after, when I was in college for about a year and a half, like the first year I had a lot of gay friends, and as my awakening happened, I it's like my friend group divided, like, because it was a mixed group of like queer gay people and then straight people, and like I moved into a house with these like three straight people, and then my queer friends were still there in the picture, but we saw each other at parties. It's like we kind of took this distance. It was strange. And so like I've always been in these heterosexual places, and like I've allied more with women than with men because I'm very in touch with that feminine part of me, and I feel like a sister. Like I can show up to the sister circle and feel really happy there, and just like really supportive of women, like really in alignment with women uprising and standing for themselves and having the same power as men, and being honored for, even being more intuitive and more like having more, because so much like women have been seen as less. But like if we're really gonna look at it, like I really feel like, with that cycle, and that, if you get scientific about it, the difference in the brain, like that expanded right brain creative capacity, women have more intuition. And they see that gay men have also that same right expanded brain, like the brain on the right tends to be bigger than the left, whereas heterosexual men have that almost symmetrical brain. So I've always felt that alliance with women, and it got to a point where I was like, because I was always in these communities, that I'm like, hey, I'm like two-spirit, I'm very like here with women, but then my sexual energy is so masculine. So masculine. So it was like a confusion for me, because what attracts me is like body hair, fur, hair, woof, bear. Like I'm
more
like
fur, a little more
like
fur
the
with the
like
hair.
I've finally like the bear culture has always been something that I'm seeing from afar from the internet, and like being here in Portland, more I've like actually been able to dive into it. The first time I went out to one of those parties, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no, the first time I was in like San Francisco, and I couldn't handle like the rigidity and the tightness of it. Like they're like, it felt like all these men are just like not exposing their emotions. And I kind of came to this big liberation, and just like, I can be here, I can be myself here, I belong here. And it came also with like, stop trying to do it the way that they're doing it, dance the way I want to dance, not drinking alcohol or smoking weed with them, but like, I'm gonna drink my chocolate and go out and dance at this sexy party. I'm gonna take my rapé medicine and take that instead of like sniffing these poppers and these disgusting things. And then I feel like myself, and I bring myself there, and like, I get all this attention. So I'm like, I have this really like masculine energy at the same time. So I feel both really in the feminine, like I really like value and cherish my connection with sisters, and I feel like I belong with the sisters, and I'm starting to actually feel like maybe I can belong with the brothers too, because being at men's circles has been a lot more challenging, because I think men have a lot more to let go of than women. They have a lot more of the rigidity and the controlling stuff and the concepts that they have to let go of. And I don't want to be the person that has to do that work for them. So I almost don't want to be there half the time.
I understand.
And like, so how do I see myself? It's like, that two-spirit concept. Like, I don't want to appropriate that term without being initiated by Native American, First Nations people who use that term. And from what I know about it, there's a lot of discrepancies about like what that means. Is that something that makes less those two-spirited people by taking away there's different ideas about it, and it's of course a variation from culture to culture. But anyway, like, yeah. So the like, and here, like, what I've discovered is like the queer and gay are two different things, and they don't always overlap. And sometimes there's actually, like, the same way that there's a division and a conflict between men and women, there's a division and conflict between the gay and the queer. And like, I feel alliance with both. Like, I really like love being at the gathering with a lot of transgender people and a lot of non-binary people and a lot of people who just play. And at the same time, when it comes with like drag and the performance of it is like a very like gay male putting on the show, cisgendered person like doing it just for a moment, then switching back, and that's not me at all. Because I like to wear the in between. Like, I like to wear very feminine clothes, but have this big beard and all this hair and like kind of thing. Like, I like how that messes with things. So that's very queer in a way. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like very divided and very confused, and like I've gotten to a point where it's like, this is just not, like, it's interesting to explore and talk about with people, and ultimately, like, in the bigger picture of things is like, we just got to do our work, and people are so addicted to the conflict when it comes to these subjects that like I have gotten so bored with it. It's like, you queens want to like yell about who's being inclusive and who's not, and what's right and what's wrong, and how the right and the wrong way of talking to you is. It's like, everyone's doing their best. Let people be who they are. So I'm like a little bit like bored with it. Like, I really had a mission to like, I'm gonna serve the queer community, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna serve the people who come to me.
Mongolia.
You're gonna bring the queerness there.
No, I'm gonna find them.
You're gonna find them.
And I'm gonna. It's in the works, and I'm putting it out,
That's
and
super
it's
cool.
coming in. I feel
That's
it
really
coming
cool.
close. I think I love your answer, because my question is like, kind of, how do you feel about the word queerness, and does it apply to you?
Yeah.
And your answer is so rich. Like, you start by talking about, well, this is my femininity. This is where I feel good with the sisters, but my sexuality is very masculine. And I think it's such a beautiful answer, because more and more it's, I'm queer, or I'm this, and I don't. Your answer was a journey through yourself. Yeah. And I think that's. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's really beautiful. And it's so, it's hard to figure out who we are. Yeah. I really love.
It's like, you can embrace what you like and what you prefer without rejecting what you aren't. And
so
that's kind of like what is very common in the queer world, is like, okay, the bare sexuality, like, they push away the femininity. They don't want to see it in themselves sometimes. And that's heavy. And then super like heavy. The like, the don't misgender me thing, it's like, I'm so offended if you see this aspect of me, but it's in you. It's like, you have male energy in you too. We can meet at that level. Right, exactly. I have the female energy in me.
I think you have more feminine than I do, to be honest. My gender is not what people expect.
Yeah, I have a lot of feminine. I'm like,
I know. You absolutely have more than me. That,
but like, the physicalness of my body and what I'm attracted to in terms of bodies is like, to the top, androgen male.
Yeah. To the top.
You're like,
no middleman. I think it's so important. Part of what you're bringing to people is modeling. This is complicated and murky, and we don't need to look outside to figure out who we are. We really have to sit with this, right? Yeah. And sit with the masculine and feminine. And people make huge assumptions about me and my gender and sexuality. And I'm reaching the point where I don't care, because it's not relevant. Yeah. But it's so important, I think, to do that work for yourself, and that you bring that to other people in a way that's, I think, you give people permission to sit with themselves and say, what is this? Yeah. What is this? I love it. Yeah. Do I have any other questions for you? Can I ask another one? Yeah. How important do you think it is to be working with the physical body and physical practices in order to have a spiritual practice?
Utmost importance. Why? Because your meridians, they're physical. They're at your core, your bones, your flesh, your muscle, your tissue. And, it's like, you can't just sit around and meditate all the time. Like, look at whoever that Maharishi guy got cancer. People have spiritual justifications for why that is, and there's a lot of explanations as to why that happened. But, there's a lot of people who want to like think that they can just like feel good or like think the right thoughts and it's all going to be all right. But you're a physical being. You're here. You didn't come into a body to like dissociate from it. You came here to be fully in your body. And like I notice such a difference when I do yoga and when I don't.
Me too.
My body changes a lot.
And my mind changes. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like all of those meridians, like you got to develop the muscles, you got to clear your fascia, and it's so super important. And it's not like, I don't think working out can be making up for doing yoga or qigong or yin yoga or, I mean, there's other practices like that too. But here's the thing is that it's like, it doesn't have to be the way that it's taught, because what yoga is what yoga has come from is the spontaneous awakening of spiritual energy that contorted people's bodies into certain positions that became yoga asanas that then they taught to others in hopes that that would help them replicate the spiritual experience, and it works. Though you get to a point where you get spontaneous kriyas, you get the spiritual energy download, and crazy things
that's my
happen.
Practice. I am such
even
a physical channeler. I'll be doing yoga and I'll be in a class, and suddenly I'm doing something else, and I just trust that. I've learned to trust.
And it's just absurd, like Western yoga, like they judge you and think you're wrong because you're not doing it the way that they are teaching you to do it. And like, I've been like,
I'm like the
shamed or pushed out of yoga classes for doing it my own way.
Yeah, me too.
And it's just like, Western yoga is not actually what yoga is. Yoga is union. It's the spontaneous expression of spiritual energy moving through your body and allowing you to move and express in
Asanas
certain
are
ways.
amazing, and I think it's a great practice, but if your body is calling to go a different way, you go that way.
And so like dancing can be your physical practice. It doesn't have to be yoga. It doesn't have to be anything you don't want to do. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But you got to get in your body. And I'm so full on about this. And I wrote a status about this today. I don't know if you saw that.
Didn't.
But like, I don't know, like I check when I lose friends. I lost 3 friends today. I don't know if it was from that or from a different post or if they were bot, who knows. And then somebody was like being like, well, like this is being judgmental and and like it's really about being authentic and showing up for yourself and like being real in your self-care and like,
that's the medicine they
it's true. It's like being in your, but then it's like when you're showing up directly into defensiveness, whenever you're showing up in defensiveness, that is a sign that you don't fully believe what you're saying. When you're defensive, you don't fully believe what you're saying. And so, I didn't respond to it yet. But I,
Do you think you have to respond? Do you feel like you need to?
I'm trying to be a little bit more impeccable with responding to most of the like very like thoughtful comments that come up on social media. But like today, like I have like 3-4 emails to clients that I didn't even get back to, and I have a client in the evening,
and tomorrow's your birthday.
Tomorrow's my birthday.
Yeah.
I have a Skype call tomorrow.
Oh,
I'm like, I have no idea how I got to be this busy. I love it, and it's also like a little over the top, but to answer your question, basically it's super important to be in your body.
Can I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
So I know what I want to ask. Let me find the words around it. I don't want to use the word teacher because I think when you hear the word spiritual teacher, it turns slippery into this idea of guru or someone who have all the answers for you. And I fundamentally believe the universe is your teacher. It's all your teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
But in terms of looking for humans around you that you might benefit from being with or learning from.
Heartness. Heartness. It's a
That's
feeling.
what you look for.
Heart knows, heart's knowing. You will just be drawn to them. And like if you this is what Bashar says, follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on a particular outcome. When you are really in your flow and you're doing what brings you the most love, those people will just show up. Like my teacher just showed up to me in Palenque.
So like how do you differentiate? What you say makes sense to me, but I see a lot of people, we get called karmically too. Like if you think about the difference between heart and lust.
Yeah.
I think people can what I watch is people get really excited by teachers that are the perfect match for them because they're going to trigger the thing that kind of needs to be, the poison that needs to be cleaned out of them. And that's a path.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I've seen that too. Like, I don't know.
How do you differentiate? If someone doesn't have experience, a lot of people don't know how to listen to their hearts.
Though,
how do you do that? How do you teach someone to do that?
You know what? Universally, at this time on the planet, you're gonna meet the people that are gonna trigger you. And I have not met one teacher who doesn't bring their shit into it. and there's always been some kind of dogma or some kind of control or something about the teaching that I didn't resonate with. And for a while in my path, I would accept everything. I would take like, oh, okay, I'm going to receive the wisdom from this teacher. I'm going to take all of it.
Yeah.
And I had to learn like really powerfully like how to not take it. And like it was last year that like with one of my deepest teachers, like there was just stuff that like things that he would say that would get stuck in me, and like I hated it. I didn't believe it, but I believed it at the same time because I just wanted to be the good student and just wanted to hold the wisdom that he transmitted. And then I worked with this other healer on an online session, and after the session, like, you know, I was like, I still have this question. And I explained to her what was going on with like my feelings towards this person and my feelings about some of the information and feeling stuck. And she's like, hold on, let me look a second. You have hooks to this person. Can I remove them? She's like, okay, 1 second. And I got chills over my whole body. And she's like, so what happens is that spiritual teachers will always hook their students. Even she works with Amma. Amma's some people, she's an avatar. Whatever my opinion is on that, I don't know.
That's the name of my shaman auntie.
Oh, cool. But anyway, like she said, even Amma hooks people. And it's like, so even very high level people are doing this, and it's just when they repeat certain ideas, or they make you deify them, or they make you feel like they're higher than you, or that you need them. So we have to like, we're getting to a point where we can, you know, get that connection and that transmission of energy that raises our vibration without like hooking into the person, without becoming dependent on them. When we realize that all is one, and like we're just getting a little chunk from them that helps us strengthen our own intuitive connection, we can break from that. We don't need to like get hooked yet. You know, so many people are going to learn from the abusive teachers, and the truth of the matter is like there is just like I don't know what's true. I actually don't know, but my feeling sometimes is that there are more bad spiritual teachers in shaman than there are good ones. There are more that are going to like bring their shit and their heaviness and their hooks and their like inability to really hold a unique space for the unique needs of every single person every single time. You know, like that's what they have to do, and a lot of people can't do that. They have a fixed way of how it has to happen, what's going to happen, because we've been conditioned to have a formulaic approach to everything through our academic conditioning, our intellectual conditioning. It's like, oh, it's this way, and this is the formula, and that's how we do it every time. People bring that into the spirituality, and it's going to kick them in the butt. And some people, because of their privilege or because of their karma or who knows what it is, they get the opportunity to continuously, again and again, pull off the same shit and not get called out on it. And eventually, like, something kicks them in the butt, whether it's a disease or whether it's being called out or whether it's just, you know...
That's where I think it's helpful to look beyond the individual. It's the collective. It's so easy to get confused when you're thinking about the individual, but you need to step up. You're like, that's what we're working on in the collective. That style of teacher, the, like, pathological teacher bringing their own neuroses into teaching. That's
the narcissist.
Narcissist. And for some reason, when you're talking, my spirit, I'm getting all these, like, kind of communications from spirits. And one thing my spirits keep saying to me is, right now, one of your best teachers is the crystal you sleep with at night. I have like my little crystal I sleep with. It's like my teddy bear, but it's my crystal, and it's a chunk of hemimorphite. Hemimorphite?
I don't even know what that stone is.
Oh, I'll have to bring you some. And I got it a couple years ago. There was a huge pile of them at this place I was at, and my spirit said, "That's the one."
That's the one.
And it's because when I hold it, my finger, it fits perfectly. There's little nudges for each of my fingers, and I sleep with it at night, and I have never thought of it as a teacher, and I don't really know what it means, but my spirits right now are very clearly saying that is one of your primary teachers right now. And that gives me a lot to think about. Like, I think maybe part of what they're saying is you and I even get too hooked into the word teacher. It's so easy to immediately think human and just step back into these
crystals
things.
Are teachers, spirits are teachers.
All of it.
Everything is your
Traffic
teacher.
lights are teachers.
Everything in the universe is your teacher that's just showing you how to look more clearly in the mirror.
Oh, and what they're saying is the vibration of this crystal is beautiful and very high and cleaning. And I think what my spirits are showing me right now is letting go of the Western concept of teacher, of I have knowledge to share with you. They're saying let go of that. think of it in terms of like, what do you want your vibration to match with?
Yeah.
What are you looking to match with? What are you looking to match with?
Yeah.
Let go of this idea of
And
learning.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm coming to more and more in my path is like, you know, how do I want to feel? And how do I want to present myself in the world? And I just look to the people that represent that.
Yeah.
And it's people who are bold, who are courageous, who represent love, and who get people to think about big questions and go into these higher realms.
Yeah.
So that's what I look towards.
Yeah, me
and
that's why I'm so drawn to you. I'm so excited to met you in person.
Me too. And
Cool.
this is not the last time. There is a lot deeper work to happen. Maybe we'll
so.
see us in Mexico.
I hope so. I know so.
Yeah,
I feel it.
I feel it too.
I'm calling it in.
Me too. Yeah.
This has been beautiful.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you so much.
We should
Dante.
end this video.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever do online sessions with people?
That's primarily how I do it. I actually do bowl healings by phone. You can use the bowls I use. I do soul retrievals and all kinds of things. And
how do people get in contact with you?
Oh, thanks for asking. My Facebook group is Beyond Mind Lies Heart.
Beyond Mind Lies Heart on Facebook.
That's my work page. And then that's the best way to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll put that in the
description.
description.
You can put my Facebook contact, and that's the best.
Okay.
I work with people all over the world in all different time zones, and my ringer is almost always off on my phone because I work with people from Nepal and Europe and Iceland, which is part of it, and Mongolia, and of course America and Canada, and so time zones. I already struggle with time, but
yeah, time's awkward, isn't it?
Yeah, you're telling me, sister. But you can message me anytime.
Going beyond time.
Yeah.
Outside of time.
And
5D time.
90 time. One of the things that I really love to help people work with is teaching them how to connect with their own guides, teaching them, and I think you do this too, how to not be reliant on someone else, how to be able to make that contact directly. So
how to be the bridge, how to be the shaman yourself.
Exactly. I'm really passionate about people recognizing we all have this within us to varying degrees, and so that's what I love to do. And remove disincarnates.
Ooh, yay. So if you have spirits that you don't want, you know where to look. And if you're new to my channel, my website is Bliss Being, so I do similar work. I do channeling work. I work at the Pleiadian Council. They deliver messages that can help you connect also with your extraterrestrial connections, and really any questions are fair game for the Pleiadians. And I also do energy healing work and just like heart presence, bringing people into finding what it really means to be in that heart compass and their unconditional love state. And if you really like my channel, you want to keep it going, Patreon, I have a Patreon site. You can give a monthly gift, and in return you get some goodies. I'm going to write a book in the future, hopefully in the spring. I'm really calling in some hermit time to go deep into it, because I really can't manage being present online and doing anything and actually writing what I want to write. I've tried. And as well, there's many other gifts, like if you subscribe on Patreon, you can submit a question for the monthly channeling session that I'm going to be starting this month, and so much more. Patreon.com/bebliss. So we are beings of bliss, and the way to find your path is to be bliss. What brings you to feel the bliss of the moment? I'm Dante Starshine. Francis.
Ulman.
I love you.
I love you too. I love your energy so much.
This was so much fun, and this was so cool.
Happy birthday, Eve.
Happy birthday, Eve. I'm turning 28 tomorrow. Woo! Okay.
No bigs.
I almost want to wait like 15 seconds so we get a cool number on it. That's cheesy, isn't it?
No. Okay,
133.
Let's both say 3 words that come to mind. Bat, pigeon, rabbit.
Ostrich, camel, ascension.
Bye!
Whatever that means.